Okay.
Yeah, Abhishek, sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead, please.
No worries. Thank you everyone for joining. Today we are conducting the first webinar on SAP S4 HANA conversion journey. So I have two speakers with me on the call today. Our intent is not really to bore you with a lot of slides. Our intent is to keep it more interactive. So we will appreciate any questions which you have during the presentation or after the presentation. The way we have designed it is that we'll cover some slides, not a lot, few slides just to talk about our approach, the Epselon tool. We'll also give you a demo of Tech Mahindra's Epselon tool. And then in the end, we'll have 15-20 minutes to talk about any questions you may have, any examples, so on and so forth. So let's keep it more interactive. It's more of mind share where we want to come to the table, share what is our approach, how we do it, what are the best practices that we see, how the Epsilon tool can help, and also do a demo where you can see it in live action. So that's the overall purpose of this webinar today. So Mustafa, can we move on to the next slide, please? So the high level agenda, we'll quickly start with introduction, me with the two speakers. We'll talk about S4 HANA Enterprise for Manufacturing Services. So our focus today is manufacturing. So our approach for manufacturing customers and what is in it for them, our solution for them. So Partha will elaborate more on that. Our S4 HANA transformation journey, how the approach that we recommend. We'll also talk about some slides on the best practices that we recommend, how the Epsilon tool could help. So then we also will show you a demo of our Epsilon tool. And towards the end, we'll talk about the learnings and next steps. So it will be more of an open forum where we can talk about any questions you may have, need more details or any next steps. Let's move on to the next slide. So introductions, I'm Abhishek Jain. I also go by AJ. I'm based out of Hartford area in Connecticut. Within Tech Mahindra, my role is within manufacturing vertical. I lead business development. So I kind of reach out to new customers, existing customers, try to develop the business. SAP is one of the competency which I focus on within manufacturing. As I mentioned, there are two speakers with me today. One is Partha Gopal Krishna. He is our SAP practice head for North America. He'll cover the initial introduction. He'll talk about our SAP competency, our manufacturing solution, give you an overview of our approach for S4 HANA journey. And then Mustafa Merchant, who is our solution architect. He'll show you the demo for Epsilon, talk about the Epsilon tool. And towards the end, we'll all be here to address your questions. So without further ado, over to you, Partha. Take it away.
Thank you so much, AJ. This is Partha Gopalakrishna. I lead the SP practice for TechM here in North America. So today's topic is accelerated S4 HANA conversion journey with Epsilon, right? So I'm sure like many of you who are attending this call here are running ECC today, in different forms, right? Like ECC on HANA or probably on the traditional database, you're probably on premise or on cloud, all kind of, combinations that we have seen, right, over the last 15 years or so since ECC is in existence. And today this idea is, why now, right? Why should you move to S4 HANA now, right? I think that's a primary question that you may be all thinking. Some of you have already gone past that stage. Some are, in that thinking process. Why now? Second is, if you have gone past that stage, how do I go about moving to S4 HANA? There are multiple options, as you all know. And should I do big bang? Should I do phased? Should I do in the cloud or non-prem? So there are so many options, right? So how should I do this journey? And third is, what are the different components that will get impacted if I upgrade from ECC to S4. There are so many surround systems you may have. There are so many functionalities that can be brought inside S4 now. SAP has brought in a lot of new functionalities. So the what part of it, right? What components can be now part of this journey, right? So the three questions, right? Why now? How and what, right? So that's what we will try to answer. So these programs typically, as you know, this is a transformation program. It's SAP doesn't call it upgrade anymore. It's called system conversion. So there is a lot of mandatory changes that would anyway happen when you do this conversion. So these programs involve cost, time, effort, and it's a lot of change for the business. If you are a global business, of course, a lot of user experience also would change. There's a lot of change management involved in these kind of programs. So we need to de-risk these kind of programs through a tool-based approach, and that's where Epselon comes into picture. We have our own proprietary tool to help you de-risk these kind of conversion programs, and that's what we are going to talk about today in the next 20-25 minutes. Go ahead, Mustafa. A very quick overview of our SAP practice. You all know us. So we are part of the Mahindra and Mahindra Group, 25 billion plus organization. We are a $5 billion organization from Tech Mahindra standpoint. We are the IT arm of Mahindra and Mahindra. Interestingly, Mahindra and Mahindra, Tech Mahindra both run on S4 HANA, and we have a 20+ year history in the SAP space with a strong focus on manufacturing industry in particular. You can see some of the segments we are focused in: automotive, of course, given our Mahindra pedigree, aerospace and defense, industrial manufacturing customers. Within process, we focus on paper and pulp, chemicals, and of course, metal and minings also, right? So across all these manufacturing companies, we have worked with marquee customers and are helping them in the S4 journey today. We have built a lot of tools and accelerators. Epselon is one of them. And we are also a strong partner. We have the strongest level of partnership with SAP. We are a global strategic services partner of SAP, and we work very closely with them on all these newer products that are coming into the market, including their recent RISE offering, which is sold for the S4 HANA, right? And in terms of global delivery capabilities, we have nearshore in Mexico, Brazil, and we have offshore capabilities, and of course all other regions as well. So these programs, global transformation programs, require people to work in all these regions, and we have the required delivery centers to deliver these kind of programs, and a strong partnership with hyperscalers. I'll talk more about why cloud now, but again, as you know today, no discussion for transformation goes without a cloud component in it, and we have all the strongest level of partnership with the top hyperscalers. So that's a quick overview on Tech Mahindra, SAP practice in particular. We'll move forward. Yeah, move forward. Yeah. So why now, right? That was my first question on why we need this S4 HANA transformation today. So if you look at it, manufacturing companies in particular, right? The business expectation is you are going to run Industry 4.0. There are plans for Industry 4.0 implementations. Business models have changed. Servitization models where you are selling product as a service. In chemical industry, we are seeing a lot of mergers and acquisitions happening. Today, business wants to collaborate with the suppliers and partners. You want to implement digital twins. You want to implement predictive maintenance on your assets. So all these, digital transformation cannot be done with the ERP that we have today, right? ECC 6 doesn't support the one in terms of functionality. It doesn't have all that is needed to support these kind of digital transformation. What business needs to be a leader in your space. And secondly, the architecture also doesn't support it, right? So today it's mostly, you're on premise, you are running with the old middleware. You have, some surround cloud applications. Some have not moved to SaaS applications on the periphery like Ariba or others. So you need to have an architecture that supports these kind of transformation, right? That's why it is very important. And COVID has become a big enabler for all of us to understand, how important these kind of digital transformation is, because we have all seen those kind of supply chain disruptions happening. We need those kind of capabilities in the modern ERP, right? So what are those capabilities? If you look at it, automation, number one, you need to have the highest level of automation for all the business processes. You need to have predictive capabilities, right? So if finance needs to know things, ahead, or your supply chain needs to know things ahead, you need to have predictive capabilities in the ERP. That's second. You need to run your ERP ideally on the cloud. You need to have better collaboration with your partners and suppliers using a API based integration approach. And you need to have real-time insights from the ERP, right? So today again, like all know, the ECC world doesn't provide that. You need to have real-time insights. Right? What do I mean by real-time insight? Right from customer experience to supply chain, you should be able to take decisions on the fly, right, and make changes quickly. And that today's ERP cannot provide, right? So you have the architecture doesn't support that. And so these are the functionalities which intelligent enterprise, as everybody calls it these days, would bring to the table. So the intelligent enterprise running on the cloud, as you see in the bottom, that's the future, right? We see everybody going towards that holy grail. That's what we see in the market today. Next step.
Hey Gopal.
Yeah.
This is Vito from Axalta. I just wanted to just double check really quick. Who else is on from Axalta?
I don't know. Is there?
Because I joined 5 minutes late. I'm not finding one other person on this list that's Axalta.
Okay. Kamlesh, do you know anyone who's from Axalta here? No, Eric, we are not seeing.
Actually, Vito, Kevin, you was supposed to join, but he said he had another meeting, so he told me that Vito will be joining.
Yeah, but this is, I mean, this is fine, right? And I'm happy to stay on, but I'm not really the right audience for this, right? I'm the global director of infrastructure and IT operations. I mean, I do help support the infrastructure for SAP, but I'm in terms of SAP and the services that you provide. I'm not. I mean, I would be involved definitely, but there's other people in the organization that are much more aligned to SAP that should be here. So considering that I'm the only one on this from Axalta, I think this should probably be rescheduled, guys. I don't think this is going to be a valuable use of your time.
So Vito, this is a webinar, so we have invited multiple customers on this call. So we are recording this session. So if some of the stakeholders who should have joined from your organization, they could not join, we will share the recording with them.
Okay, all right, fine. I thought this was just Axalta. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
People. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. So with that said, right, I talked about the future state. So this is the architecture that we see companies are moving towards, right? So like I said, everybody is in a different stage today, but at the end, you would see an architecture something like this, right? So you have the shop floor sensors and IoTs, machines to machines talking. You have a plant connectivity layer. You're feeding into the MAI system where you get all your manufacturing dashboards. That talking to your S4 HANA, which has all the ERP functions, right, from order to cash to procurement to finance to say a supply chain. And then you have a side-by-side application development on the SAP Cloud Platform, which brings the intelligent technologies, right, like the AI/ML capabilities, the blockchain, the IoT capabilities are all sitting there in the cloud platform, which powers the S4 HANA and makes it intelligent, right? So you have the intelligent technologies powering the ERP. And then on the leftmost corner, you see all your SaaS applications that are, like Ariba's and the IBPs, the intelligent asset managements of the world, right? So all these working in conjunction would be the intelligent enterprise future, right? That we would see in a manufacturing organization. Move forward. Yeah. So now I have talked about the why. So what are the options to get there, right? And I also shown the target state. What are the options to get there, right? So different companies follow different approaches. There are greenfield implementations. Some companies are doing. We are working with one discrete manufacturing organization today. They have multiple non-SAP ERPs today. So for them, they have no choice. They had to go for a greenfield implementation. There are companies like some of you who are running on ECC today. So you have the option to do conversion. And again, for a conversion, you have cloud option or on-premise option. Public cloud can be done only through a new implementation. It's a greenfield. So if you primarily, we see customers either choosing the middle one, which is the private cloud edition, which SAP has launched recently. It's called the RISE offering from SAP. It's sold as a service, like a subscription. The interesting thing about this model is you could also do a conversion from ECC to S4. You don't necessarily have to go to a new greenfield implementation to get to this model from where you are today. Even if you're running ECC on-premise today, you could come to a private cloud edition through conversion. And then of course you have the on-premise option anyways. You could also do a conversion from ECC to S4 HANA. And then here again, like this is the very high level picture, but we have seen customer right now. I am working with one customer who is doing a pilot or a sandbox conversion rather to start the program, right? So they want to try it out. They want to see how much downtime is needed. They want to see, how the what is the custom code impact of this upgrade, and so on and so forth, right? What are the impact of the integrations? How much testing do I need? They are assessing all that, and then they would do the actual conversion, right? So there are different ways you can get here, but these are some of the options that we are seeing, and mostly, where SAP is pushing for the private cloud edition model, which is RISE. Earlier, as you know, there was a model called SAP EX extended edition, but right now SAP is selling more of the RISE model, and it allows you to convert, like I said. Move forward. Yeah, so now in the path of how do you get there, there are primarily three steps. You have a business case, you finalize the option. Like I said, you have all these options of how to get there. And then once you get to the S4 HANA, we say, you can innovate further, right? There are ways to build on it. So primarily we call this as a land and expand model, right? So you first get into S4 HANA with as is functionalities. If you are doing a conversion, that's the easiest. You have low risk. You just do the mandatory conversion, come to S4 HANA, and then expand on it. You can implement the newer functionalities that S4 HANA provides. Move forward. So Tech Mahindra has a very clear 4-step approach to create these business cases. There are tools available from SAP. Some of you may have heard it. There is BSR report, business scenario reports. There is readiness check reports available from SAP. That's the starting point. You could run all those. It will give an idea of what is the impact and what are the potential simplifications you could implement. Then that's where the second step is where we run our tools. We have our own discovery tool. It gives impact. It gives various functionalities to help you with the S4 HANA conversion. Mustafa is going to talk about it, so I'm not going to elaborate on that. And then third is, of course, you do workshops and interactions with the stakeholders to understand their current pain points and their future needs, right? So you go line of business wise, finance, supply chain, procurement, sales, and you kind of understand their needs, and then build the roadmap for S4 HANA. In that roadmap, again, you have multiple options. Pilot, big bang, any kind of options are possible. Global rollout, template and rollout, multiple options, right? So you have to see what are the different complexities involved, and accordingly we'll propose a roadmap for you. So this exercise typically takes 4 to 6 weeks kind of effort for both workshops, running these tools, and coming up with some recommendations, and then presenting it back to you, right? So this is presenting it to all the right stakeholders to get a buy-in for this project. So this is about 4 to 6 weeks is what we have seen for customers. Next. So these are the move options. So from a implementation upgrade standpoint, there are so many things that needs to be taken care even after you decide on the system conversion. There are a lot of prerequisite projects you may want to do. One of the customer I'm working on right now, they are doing the customer vendor conversion today. It's become a new. You need to do some master data cleanup sometimes. You need to do archiving. So there are some prerequisite projects which are nice to have projects which which are good to do before you start the S4 conversion. So we would propose those kind of activities before you start, and then run some of these reports, and then the actual conversion would take place. SAP standard is about 9 months, but again it depends on the size of the company, so it can take anywhere around that timeline to do these kind of system conversion. There are some additional tools you may have to also leverage. For example, if you need a near zero downtime, then there are some additional tools available from SAP which you need to use, or even for data conversion in case of greenfield implementation, you may use some tools. So there are additional tools that may be needed as you do the implementation. But typically this is like a 9 months exercise right from the start to finish. And then the final stage is, of course, the further innovations, right? You could build on the Fiori as a primary UX. You could do IRPA programs. SAP has a lot of IRPA capabilities now that has come with BTP. There are chatbots for features available. Could move as CPI as a standard middleware. There are data lakes that customers are building SAP and implementing SAP Analytics Cloud. So these are some of the things we have seen customers do once they implement S4 HANA. Some customers do it along with the S4 HANA project, but typically we have seen, like I said, land and then customers expand on the functionalities or features. And there are so many new functionalities that are come across each line of business in S4 HANA, right? Like on the sales side, you have the advanced available to promise, you have manufacturing, you have the DDMRP, you have universal journal, the new asset accounting, group reporting, you have back order processing. You have so many new functionalities that are there in S4 HANA. So customers, sometimes, first they come to S4 HANA and then do these kind of new functionalities or simplifications, implementation. Move forward. Yeah. So final slide from my side before I hand it over to Mustafa to show you the Epselon tool. So this is the way we do these kind of conversion projects, right? The how part, right? So I covered the why S4 HANA now, and the roadmap, right? And this is the way in which it is done. So in terms of the implementation, it follows the activate methodology as it's used for all the S4 HANA programs. It starts with the prepare phase, and there are some pre-planning or assessment that, like I talked about, which may be needed before the prepare phase. It's called discover, and you do all these kind of assessment on what would get impacted before you start. And then you actually do the prepare phase, where you do typically sandbox conversions. You do all those pre-checks, ready your custom code, do those, and then the actual some demo, the conversion happens in the realize phase, and this is where post which you do the testing and go live. So this is the typical activate methodology. It follows the waterfall method up to the realize phase, and when the development or realize phase is where you follow a hybrid agile model for the in sprints to deliver the rise of object remediations, and then you go ahead with the testing and go live. So this is the 9 yards of what you need to do as a part of the conversion. Mustafa, with that, I will hand over to Mustafa. So there are some, like I said, we have our own tool which helps de-risk these kind of transformation programs. So Mustafa, why don't you cover the next 10-15 minutes on this?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Partha. So I'll just give you the brief capabilities of this TechM Epselon tool. This is our own proprietary tool, and it is certified by SAP. This means that this tool is completely safe to run on your environments. It is not going to impact your performance in any adverse manner, nor is it going to take any confidential data from your environment, right? So that's a concern which many customers may have. So I just wanted to put that up front. Now, this is a multifaceted tool. We use this primarily for driving S4 HANA transformations and building the S4 HANA roadmap. However, it has got a lot of functionality to even do a discovery of your existing systems and do a health check of your system. And not only just from an S4 HANA migration, you can use this from EHP migration if you are currently on ECC and want to migrate onto EHP 7 to make it compatible with the HANA database, or you are looking to do HANA database migration. So it has all that functionality built in. Partha earlier spoke about a lot of companies these days are going with a merger and acquisition route. Particularly, we are seeing that in the chemicals industry. So with Epsilon, you have the functionality to compare different instances that need to be combined. You can do an assessment of those entities individually, as well as you do the comparison across the board. So in terms of how your processes and customizations will look in the end state architecture. So here I have primarily focused on the S4 transformation piece and how Epsilon can help. What we'll do is that instead of me walking you through the slides, we will go to the system, and actually I'll show you, how this tool works in action. Yes. So this is the tool. It's a cloud-based solution. So it requires just a login ID and password for somebody to access this. And just a moment. Have been logged off. Just need to log in back again. And it does that thing for security. After a point of time, it will put me off the system. Yeah. So as you can see, this is the cloud-based solution. You can just log in into from any place in the world. And once we are there, you'll see various tabs with different functionalities, right? So initially you see this customer tab. This is where all the details about the customer environment are stored. So in case we are doing this for you, all your system details and high level details are going to be stored here. This is very important. This is the assessment synopsis of what is coming up now. So Epsilon works along three major dimensions, right? It gives us an analysis of the users, of the business process usage, and the custom object inventory. So this is just a synopsis at a high level for this demo environment, saying that how many users are present, how many business processes you are using, how many process steps do they have, and out of which how many are customized, right? And then it gives you a preview of the custom object inventory. So this is just at a very high level. I'll actually take you through some of the details which this tool gives in terms of the business processes and the configuration and the customizations, right? So here you see that there are various ways in which you can view your business process, right? So what it does is it goes through your system, analyzes all the configurations, the customizations, and it will help put a BPML, right? So many times when we go to customers, this is one part which is missing. The system has been built sometime in the past, and over a period of time there have been many changes which have happened, and the BPML is not really updated, right? So this can help you generate a level 5 BPML, which can be a starting point for you to understand your own business processes, right? Which can be the case, for large complex environments. And of course, then there is a you can see the business process summary, which is going to be the synopsis of all the different business processes that are being used in the the customer's end or your environment. So this is just saying that the number of transactions that are there for each of the business process. Similarly, you can get a sub-process view, so you can actually drill down to the level of a sub-process, right? So within, for example, a basis, what are the different components, or within, accounts payable, what are the different components? So you can get all this information along with the number of dialogue steps, the number of active users, right? And the total number of process steps, right? So this will help you in terms of understanding how many steps are being utilized, for this particular process, how many users are actually, using this process, right? So you can understand the criticality, the complexity of the process with all this information. And it has then some good analytics, built in. So I'll show you one of the graphs here, right, which is a business process heat map. So it gives a very good visual output in terms of helping you understand how your different business processes are they're configured in the system today, right? So you have on one axis your number of process steps, the other axis is the number of dialogue steps. So that is going to be the number of clicks that are happening against that business process, and then the size of the bubble here is going to correspond to the number of users. So if I take this specific example, right, out here, we know that okay, finance is pretty complex. It has got a lot of process steps, and finance, materials management, and to some extent logistics and PP are pretty intensely used. So you get a good idea of where you require to focus your efforts on, and how do you go about testing this system when it comes to that stage, because that's one of the key aspects of any conversion, the planning and then the actual conversion, and then of course the significant amount of time is going to go into testing. So this gives a lot of inputs for the testing purposes as well. There are a lot of different reports. I'll not get into everything here just for the sake of time, but I'd like to also show you, that you can do user analysis through this. You can get the users by geographical location. You can get a split of, inactive users versus active users, users with validity. You can even get, when have users passed logged on into the system. So this will help you to do a license optimization, right? In many cases, we see that there are users which have been created in the system, but they are not really using the application so much, right? Or there can be users who are very focused around only certain modules, and they may have been given a lot of additional accesses. So those kind of insights you'll be able to get from this, right? Another key area is the application and the configuration data, right? So essentially all this would be your SPRO, but this gives you all in a very easy format. So let's say you require to give this information to a partner or to a set of consultants in terms of what is my materials management, how is it configured, what are the different types of release strategies that I have, right? Even without giving access to the system, you can get all of this. This information is here, and everywhere you will see that there is this icon for export, right? So you can always export all of this into an Excel sheet, right? So this information is completely downloadable, right? All this information which is coming from Epselon. There are also some downloads available. So there is something called as the application understanding document. So this is going to give you an end-to-end view of your current application. So it is going to do a detailed discovery on your current ECC system, tell you what are the configurations that you have across the various modules, what is your business process usage. So all the aspects that I spoke about, right, is going to be neatly packaged into one document. There are a lot of annexures that you can actually download. So yes, as you see, this is downloading that right now. You can get all your PPML, your list of RICEF objects. All that is is downloadable. So you can see out here that you're getting the details of all the different parameters which would interest you when you are getting into any kind of conversion. So what are the interfaces, what are the background jobs, right? So all this information becomes very easily and readily available in a very simplified format for users to use. All right. And then the other functionality, of course, which is a key for this tool, right, is the custom code analysis. So you would typically have a lot of customizations, right? So this is going to give you the list of all those custom codes. Not only that, it can also tell you which of your custom codes is being utilized versus it's not, right? So if I click on this unused custom programs, it will tell me, how many programs do I actually have, how many are being used, right? What is the percentage of programs which is not being used? So here we see, okay, this for this demo environment, right? 54% is not being used. So there is a opportunity for a lot of, housekeeping. And this can be, executed for different time frames. So, if this has been run for 3 months, so it is saying that 54% of the programs have not been used in the last 3 months, right? It could be that there might be certain programs which are related to year end or something, which may have not been used, if that is outside the time period, right? That is fair enough, but it will actually tell you what is, used, not used, when was it last changed, right? So you get a lot of useful information, which can help you do housekeeping before you go into the actual S4 conversion, right? Because you want to kind of focus your efforts in terms of what you are using, what are the critical objects that you want to maintain in your system going forward. Right? And then there is the S4 HANA Migration tab. Very similar to that, there is a migration to HANA database and an upgrade to PHP. So this depends on where you want to move from your current environment, right? So I will just take S4 HANA Migration as a sample. So this will give you the roadmap for S4 HANA migration, right? It will tell you what are the functional changes that are required in your system. What is the complexity of transitioning to S4 HANA? It will help with a methodology. So this is what we are saying is a one-stop stop, because it gives you the methodology. It helps you create your test scripts, right? There is a place for where you're doing for testing as well. I'll showcase that towards the end. And of course, it gives you all the information about your custom code that you need to remediate. So here, if you look at this, right, the readiness code for the custom code impact analysis, synopsis. So it will give you all these details, right, saying that, okay, hey, what is changing in my system, how many custom codes that I have, what is the issue. So out here, for example, it is saying that, okay, these are the different custom objects, right? And out of, I have close to 20,000 objects. When I go to S4 HANA, 3,500 of that is, change is going to get impacted. So I need to be focused on the remediation for these, 17% objects, right? And this is at a high level. You can get into the details. It can, tell you, okay, specifically what is, breaking. So if I get into, like, let's say the program details, it will tell me, specifically what program is breaking where, what is the reason, right? And it will also give me, the corresponding SAP notes that I need to add or, implement to remediate the situation. Right. So it's not only just telling you what is the issue, it is also telling you, how to possibly, fix it. Right. So a lot of good information is coming from this tool, which can be used, of course, for the planning purposes and also for the actual execution. Okay. Now I'll, so also similarly on the business process side, right? So it'll tell you, okay, here are the list of transactions that are going to get obsolete when you move on to S4 HANA, right? So here, okay, we are seeing that overall 4% of these transactions are going to get obsolete because they are no longer going to be supported in S4. So it is giving you the breakup by functional area, by SAP module and submodule. Right, so you are aware of what needs to be changed, what is no longer going to be supported through the traditional GUI, what needs to be migrated to the Fiori applications, right? And it also gives you, the list of improved transactions. It gives you a list of, all the Fiori capabilities that S4 is going to come with, right? So a lot of rich information is coming from the tool. You see here that it is telling you which are the transactions that are going to be improved as a result with more functionality when you're going to move to S4, right? The same 615 transactions, but out of that, how many 44% are going to be improved, right? So this is all the analysis that you can get in terms of your S4 HANA migration project. There are additional, templates and tools available here. So you have something called as the master data cockpit, where you can, get your data migration templates for various different types of objects when you want to move from ECC to S4. As you know, the data structures have, changed in S4. So that way is then you have some ready-made templates that you can use for your migration process. And then, yes, it also helps you with the data assessment, right? Saying that, okay, what is the volume of data that you need to migrate? What is the customer vendor integration required, as you would be aware, right? So it is all going to be the business partner concept in S4, right? Moving away from the traditional customers and vendors of ECC. So all this information is available, right? It is summarized from an executive standpoint. There is enough information from a program management and also for the actual people who will be executing it, right? So it caters to different types of audiences within the same tool, right? And so the process, okay, so sorry, I should have talked a bit about that earlier. The process to implement this, right? So it is essentially a piece of code that you require to implement in your system, right? If I put it very simply. So we would send you the transport request, you would run it in your sandbox, and then development and whatever the process you have at your end. And then once you move it into production, right? Ideally, we would want to run it for 3 months of production data. It would give you us an accurate picture of the usage, because only with the usage tied to the customizations and the configurations that you would be able to get a complete picture, a holistic view of what is critical, what needs to change, and how can you go about doing that. Okay. Last thing I'll just touch upon briefly is the testing, right? As I said, testing is also, you can drive your test plan through this, or of course you can integrate it with any other tool like an HP ALM. So based on the business processes, right, it will help you generate an initial, test bed, right? So this, just wanted to clarify, this is not going to be the detailed process steps here, right? For that, you would have to use another tool, something like a Worksoft Certify or any other tool which is available in the market. But this will at least give you a structure, right? So in terms of, okay, these are the business processes that you require to test. And you can actually, we have seen customers who've got not a very complex environment that they have been using this to manage their test execution as well. Right. So I won't say it is very enhanced. Of course, something like an HP ALM is going to come with much more functionality, but you can always, export and, into an Excel format, which can then be uploaded into a test plan for an ALM. Right. So that's about, all the key functionality of the tool. Any questions so far? Okay, if not, then I'll hand it over back to Partha to talk about, some of the learnings that we have had in these S4 conversion projects, and yeah, and then, how can you benefit from this tool by the actual deployment? Partha, over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Mustafa. So we'll end with this topic. So basically, when you do these kind of system conversion, like I said, there are some best practices, and there are some learnings that we have learned over the last 20 plus conversions that we have done. Number one is very relevant to what Mustafa was talking about. I'm not going in this order. I'm just picking a few to give an idea. It's very relevant to what Mustafa was talking about, right? Around custom code, because that's a big chunk of work in every system conversion, right? So because all the ECC customers have a heavy amount of customization. So it's very important to review the custom codes well ahead of these kind of projects, leveraging tools like Epselon, and clean up the unused objects, right? So that much testing efforts will be less, that much objects which are really not used by the business. I have seen typically, we have run this tool for over 100 plus customers in the last 2 years. Definitely we see like 40+% of custom code that is not used by, which are there in the environment. So it's very important to clean up those, number one. And second is to also know which ones will get impacted upfront. So you can plan the duration of your project, right? How complex is this project? How much time should I dedicate for ABAP remediation? So it will help you understand that if you run these kind of tools upfront. So that's one best practices I would say that you should do. And second is the sandbox conversion, like I mentioned earlier. Many customers are doing it these days. It gives a good idea about from a basis standpoint, right? How much downtime is needed, because every business is worried about when I do these kind of upgrades, can I manage it over the weekend, right? And how do I will it take more time than that? If your database is many terabytes, it will take more time. So how do I optimize the downtime? That you need to plan upfront. So we typically suggest like 2+ test conversions in a sandbox, right? In a sandbox, which you can do again, like this can be done much ahead of the project. And then the first item again, like the change management is, again, we see it's a big change because we are all used to ECC for many years. The S4 HANA comes with the whole Fiori UX. So if you are not already on to Fiori, or even if you are, there are a lot of new Fiori transactions plus embedded analytics that have come in S4 HANA. So it's a lot of change. So it will be good to demo these newer functionalities to business, and as a part of it, kind of drive the change management upfront, right? Not wait till you start the project. I saw this question from Eric. Yes, Eric, on the deadline, it is still 2027. But like I said, with the prep work and the actual conversion, it will take like a couple of years for somebody to really get benefit out of these kind of upgrades. So it is the earlier the better, like I said in the beginning of the call, it's not because of the deadline. I wouldn't suggest moving to S4 HANA because of the deadline. That's not the reason why you should move to S4 HANA. It should be for the functionalities. It should be for what the business KPIs would improve by implementing S4 HANA. So those days are gone, right? Like where the deadline is, of course, SAP has given a reasonable amount of time for people to convert. What I see is especially global customers, right? It's a very large project. It's like we touched upon some of the technical aspect of it, but when business sees the new simplifications from S4 and the localization, right? When each region looks at it, they will have a perspective. So it's a lot of change management and something they would benefit by implementing S4 HANA. So there is a lot of prep work. I'm right now dealing with one company which is doing like 10 months of prep work assessment project they have planned, just even before they start this upgrade project. So it depends on the size of the company, and this is a $3 billion or so company. So you can imagine, like if you are 20 billion and more, if you are large organizations, it is a massive effort. So the earlier the better. I hope I answered your question. Okay. Okay, so we would wrap up this call by saying that we showed the tool. We are happy to run this tool for anybody who is interested. At it's an investment from Tech Mahindra, and like I said, it's a lot of planning that is needed for these kind of project. We know it's not just one person who would make the decision. It's a lot of business stakeholders and IT stakeholders who need to come in. And if cloud is involved, then you have infrastructure team also involved to make all these combined decisions. So it's a decision that will go up to CFOs and the chief supply chain officers, or many times. We understand that. So we want to help you get there, and we can run this tool. We can help you with some planning efforts and also provide some advisory services on, okay, these are the options in that you could potentially look at for these kind of implementation, which will help you build that business case with your right stakeholders. So that's what we want to offer at the end. And again, like please ask any more questions. I think we have like 8 more minutes left, and if you want to follow up back again, please do so. We'll be happy to respond to you and have some follow-up deep dive conversation as per your specific situation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Partha, and thank you, Mustafa, for the very informative demo. So are there any questions from the audience? Anything else we need to get into a little more detail? Any observations, comments? Okay, I think most people dropped, which is fine. So I think we have already recorded this session. We'll share the slides with them in the recording. So thank you so much, Partha and Mustafa, once again. And Sohail, you can stop the recording.